Well, today is Saturday, January the 7th, my birthday, 61 years old. And guys, I have to admit to you, my brain has been broken for several months. A lot of yous have emailed me and have asked questions on the last couple of posts about my truck. I guess I never did finish that series of videos. It was a very upsetting time, and it has left me with no wheels and to depend on people for a ride. I don't know if it's COVID or what, but it's not like it used to be. I have a select few that will go and get me groceries and bring them to me. I haven't been able to get to any of my doctor's appointments. I haven't been able to get to any blood work before 8 a.m. in the morning. Well, what happened was, last March, the transmission in this truck started shifting into neutral at 25 to 30 kilometers an hour. And I would have to stop, put it back in drive or overdrive, and go again. And if I could get it up over 65 kilometers an hour on a downhill without getting the RPMs up to where it would be at 35 kilometers an hour, it would shift into drive or overdrive. And I did that for a month. I hauled hay with it and everything else, and hauling hay, it wasn't a problem because I couldn't get it over 35 kilometers an hour on the hills here anyway. And I researched it on YouTube, and everything a little bit I found on YouTube was a throttle body sensor. So I went and bought one because it's fuel injected into throttle body. I went and bought one. It was $87. I put it in, and the only difference it made was it instead of kicking into neutral at 35 kilometers an hour, would kick into neutral at 60 to 65 kilometers an hour. And when I'd pull out of where I live here and got onto the highway, it's downhill towards town. And if I could get it up to enough speed that I would get up over that 65 kilometers an hour, it would kick into neutral, but then it would right away kick into drive. And I would be good until I had to let off on the gas to slow down. As soon as I let off on the gas and step on the gas, it would kick into neutral. And I'd let off on the gas and hit it really fast again, and it would kick back into drive or overdrive. And sometimes it wouldn't. And I drove it like that until the engine went. And the main reason why the engine went is the tube. There's a tube that goes to the oil filter housing and goes to the radiator to cool the engine oil, which I think is crazy because you got a thermostat to regulate the temperature of the engine, and I could never get heat out of this truck. Even putting a 195 thermostat in. So a number of years ago, I disconnected it from the rad and I just put a hose to loop the line back to the engine. Well, fooling around, I left here that day. I went to get groceries, and I went down down the road that way to the main road. And I stopped at the stop sign and I started to go, and there's a one-way bridge, one-lane Bailey bridge, and then there's a steep uphill winding hill. It winds back and forth. And So normally I look at my oil pressure gauge all the time, but because the transmission was acting up and I was trying to make a run for that hill and watching for traffic coming down that hill because it's only a one-lane bridge and there's big spruce trees that the limbs block, the trees block the bridge until you get there. Well, as soon as I seen the hill was clear, I tromped on it and it kicked into neutral on me halfway up that hill. And then I basically come to a stop and I put it in drive again, and I was frustrated. I was revving it up, revving the engine up, trying to get it to kick back into drive. And I got up over top of that hill and I got maybe 200-300 yards, and like somebody slammed on the brakes and the truck just stopped dead. And it wouldn't turn over, it was seized up. So I got towed home by a little car after on the side of the road for 2 hours. Everybody that stopped with trucks said, oh, my truck would never pull you. Well, a little tiny hatchback car, front wheel drive, towed me home. So anyway, that line had blown off and there was a spray of oil from the stop sign at the bottom of my road all the way across the bridge and halfway up that hill. And I only made it a couple hundred yards past the top of the hill when she locked up. So anyway, I put an ad out on Kijiji for a new 5.7 liter 350 engine, throttle body. Didn't matter what year for the engine, but the transmission, the only transmission that fit this truck was anything out of a Suburban 4-wheel drive or a 3/4 ton pickup or this half-ton pickup in the year of 1993 and 1994, because this is 93. Those are the only 2 years the transmission would fit in this truck. And it had the overdrive. Took me 3 months to find a transmission. And I found one. And I took the oil pan off of it. I put new torque converter seals in it, new gaskets for the bolting the transfer case on, and new seals for the 4-wheel drive shifter, and stuff like that. And when I went to take the oil pan off, I don't know what they used. It almost looked like they used friggin' JB Weld, because it was hard as rock and I had to basically chisel the pan off. And when you buy a new filter, it comes with a rubber gasket. There's no rubber gasket. It was like this JB Weld, and it was like concrete. And I broke 2 bolts off because they had smeared them all over the bolt thread. I broke 2 bolts off trying to get them out, even heating up the housing. So anyway, I put a new transmission filter in it, and of course I also took out the old rubber seal so it's brass with a rubber seal on it that the filter pushes into. I changed that on the transmission, and I bolted everything up, bolted the transmission to the engine, and with the forklift I had it lifted way up in the air, so I hooked it to my boom truck here, as you see me loading hay to the cows. And I tipped the engine on about a 45-degree angle, and I dropped it in, transmission end in first, and I slipped it in. That was a tough job when you're by yourself trying to run the controls on the boom truck and try and move the engine and make sure nothing got snagged. And I got it in there, and I got it all bolted back, the engine bolted back in, all the wiring done in there. And I put the cross member back in, and it took me and 2 girls, women actually, to try and get the transfer case back up in there, because it was so awkward, and like my arms are basically useless over my head. And I got the drive shaft all in there and ready to start it up. Well, I cranked the engine over, and it wouldn't fire. It wouldn't fire at all. And so I checked for spark, and I had no spark. And I was kind of a little bit iffy about that distributor because the pickup coil was really rusted. And I said, I don't know. So I thought, you know what, I bet you, when it wouldn't start and I didn't have no spark, I thought, I had power going to the distributor, to the coil and everything, so I should be getting spark, but I'm not. So I figured, well, it's got to be that pickup coil because it's all rusted. So I took the distributor cap off, and I marked on the engine exactly where the rotor was pointing. And keep in mind, this engine came to me with no distributor lock bolt or the metal clip to lock the distributor. It was just sitting in there loose. So before I had changed before I did what I did, I was turning the distributor back and forth, figuring, oh, maybe it's moved out of place. And this was before I checked for spark. So I took the distributor cap off, and I marked exactly on the engine, which it happened to line up perfectly with the center of a 1/2-inch pipe plug on the intake manifold. So I pulled the distributor out, and I took the distributor from my old engine, since it was okay, and I dropped it in there, and I lined it up so that the rotor was pointing exactly where it was on the other one. And I basically just drilled out a piece of flat bar and bent it to make the little metal clip lock to go around the collar of the distributor, and I found a bolt to go in there, and I just snugged it up so that it was somewhat tight. And I turned the key, and it would fire up, but then would backfire and stall. It would fire up, backfire, and stall. And I thought, it's out of time, so I kept trying to turn the timing back and forth. And finally I got it to run, but it was like it was running on 3 cylinders almost, and it was running really rough. So I took number 1 spark plug out, and I didn't have a second person here to turn the key for me, so I took a piece of shop towel and I rolled it up in a ball really tight, and I stuck it into number 1 spark plug hole, packed it in really tight. And I had the distributor off, and I marked the timing mark on the harmonic balancer marked with a piece of soapstone. And I cranked the engine, just kept bumping the key until it finally blew that piece of shop tile out. So now I knew I was right on top dead center. So I went to the timing mark on the engine, and where my mark was on the harmonic balancer, and I had to turn it back about 4 inches. I turned it back so that it lined up with the timing marks. And the rotor was 180 degrees out from number 1 cylinder. It should have been pointing at around 5 o'clock, something like that, on the distributor. And it was a whole 180 degrees out. So I pulled the distributor out, and I lined it up with the rotor with number 1 on the distributor cap. And I put it back in, snugged it down so I could still turn the distributor, and it fired up right away. Boom, away it went. And I thought, okay, great. I got the engine running, and well, it was still up in the air. Oh no, it was down on the ground now, but the wheels were still chalked. And I fought like hell to get that 4-wheel drive shifter linkage back on that rectangular shaft. Man, I had a hard time getting that in there. It was almost impossible. And I had sanded the thing before on the transmission, got all the rust off, cleaned it up, and still I just didn't want to go on there. But anyway, I got it on there. So while I was parked right there, I tried forward, I tried reverse. Everything seemed like it was going to work. For 3 days, I took it for a test drive down my driveway, to the end of the road here and back. I didn't want to go far in case something was wrong, in case I missed something or something, and I kept stopping and checking for any oil leaks or anything. And then a few days later, I took it for a test ride down to the main road up to the fire hall and back. But I wasn't getting over, over 40 kilometers an hour because it's pretty hilly and windy, the road. And I come back here, and I did that a few times, and everything seemed to be okay. And I had a farmer that was waiting for me to go pick up that calf that I showed you, that one with the white head. This was at the end of October. He'd been waiting for me for over a week to come and pick up this calf. He was supposed to bring it when he came to get my steers to take to Oxdrift, my 3 steers to Oxdrift to be slaughtered. But his dad didn't, he was supposed to bring it with him when he came. And when he came here to get the steers, I asked him, I says, well, where's the calf? And he says, oh, Dad didn't want it to go because it come down with scours, and he doesn't want to let it go sick. I said, okay, that's fair enough. That's the way he's always operated. You won't let a calf go if it's got scours or it's sick. He wanted to keep it for a week. Well, he kept it for a week, almost 2 weeks. And then he called me and he said that it was ready to be picked up. And I thought, well, how am I going to pick this thing up? I haven't proven this truck yet. And I still hadn't tidied up the electrical wires properly the way I wanted to. And he had been bugging me for a week, and at this time, I hadn't even had the truck running yet. And then all of a sudden, I checked the antifreeze and it was down. And I thought, why is it down? I checked it several times a day. I put the antifreeze back in it. And I looked down and it looked like the bottom rad hose was leaking off the pump. So I pulled the pump out, the water pump out, and I begged and begged for days for somebody to pick me up my water pump from Napa. Finally, I got it here a week later. So he had been waiting for me for a week to pick it up. I threw it in the truck, topped up the antifreeze, and the old one had been leaking out of the bottom weep hole. And I didn't want to go far with it because, all of a sudden the seal can suddenly go and you can lose all your antifreeze in a matter of seconds. So I didn't want to go until I had it fixed. So finally, I got the water pump in there. And I called the guy up, or I texted the guy and I says, I'm on my way to go pick up that calf that I showed you. Not the newborn one, but the one with the white head. To pick her up. I'll put a picture in it here of her in the back of my truck. So it's about 8 kilometers from here to go pick up that calf. So I took off out of the driveway here and I started going down the main road. And I got on a straightaway. And I got up to 60, 65, 70 kilometers an hour, and the damn transmission kicked into neutral. And keep in mind, because this transmission had been sitting for a couple of years, I threw a bottle of that Lucas transmission additive in it, because I did that with my truck several years ago, because it was downshifting really hard many years ago. Oh, I'd say about 8 years ago. I put a Lucas of transmission fluid in there just in case something be sticky from sitting. And I thought, oh, it's kicking into neutral. Maybe it's doing the same thing my first transmission was doing. And I drove that for months like that, even hauling hay on my old transmission. And I thought, well, it's no big deal. We'll just let that Lucas work in there. Maybe it'll clear up. Because it wasn't kicking into neutral till later. And then I got going down Mud Lake Road, and it seemed to shift fine. All of a sudden, it wasn't kicking out. I got to the farmer's place, put the calf in the back of the truck, put the gate across where basically the door would be on the topper, put the gate across there so he couldn't jump out, and I headed for home. I got 3/4 of the way home. I got onto the main road here. I got about 2.5 kilometers in this main road, which is 4.5 kilometers to my place from the highway. And all of a sudden, I'm going up a hill. All of a sudden, the truck stops, and the engine revs up. I thought, what the heck? And I give it gas, and it tries to pull forward very slowly. Tries to pull forward, but it won't go. It only goes a few inches and it stops altogether again. So I rolled down the hill to the flat and I checked the transmission oil, and it was up to normal. It might have been 1/4 inch over the full mark. And that was all fine and dandy. Nothing was leaking. I started the truck up and I give her gas, and I'd bring it up about 2,000 RPMs, and it would slowly try to creep forward a little bit, and then it wouldn't do it no more. It would stop. So I shut the truck off, and it was cold out that day. So I shut the truck off, and I figured, well, I don't know, let it sit for a few minutes. And so I let it sit for about 20 minutes. I started it up, I put it in drive, and the truck took off. I went about 200 yards and it stopped again. Never to go again. Well, I spent 3 hours on the road with this calf in the back of the truck. And again, pickup trucks were stopping and seeing if I was okay. And I said, yeah, okay, can you tow me home? Oh, my truck will never pull you. And every truck that came by. And finally, this one guy I know, he came by in his car. And I told him what had happened, and he says, well, I'll run home and get my truck. He was just down past my place. So he ran home and got his truck, and he towed me home and pulled me into where that spruce tree is there. And I took the cooling line off of the rad, and I put it into a pail, and I started the truck up, and I put it in drive. No oil's even pumping out of those cooling lines. Nothing. Not a drop. So, my guess is that the oil pump from sitting for, he told me 2 years it sat. But from where the oil, a little bit of oil in the pan was, it was like dehydrated oil and basically dried up in the bottom and sticky. It probably sat longer than 2 years, and I figure the rubber seals in the pump went. They dried out, and so Lucas wasn't able to moisten them anymore, and they probably just blew apart because they're just rubber seals and stuff like that. Oops. It's 4 degrees out here today. Yesterday was -20. And it's 4 degrees today. And you guys know, I don't know if I told you the story about why my driver's side door is all buggered up. I was trying to run the bull from back here down the driveway to the cows out there in August. And the truck was up on the blocks way up in the air. And the driver's side door on this side was open about 1/3 of the way, but there was lots of room on this side of the truck. And I expected the bull to run through the wide side. But he decided he was going to go straight through on that side. And his hip bounced off of the deck, and the corner of his other hip caught the door, and he ripped it right around backwards. Well, in my test drives, I went down to the neighbors that had a 1992 truck, and I got a new door with the power windows, everything. It's buried in the snow there now, but and I had already bought the hinge pins for it. So, long story short, I'm out $200 in oils just for the transmission. That's including the Lucas. and I'm out just under $200 in seals and gaskets on the transmission, plus the cost of the transmission. I messaged the guy and I told him the transmission is no damn good. And his response to me was, well, it was fine when I took it out of the truck. You must have did something. He said, because I took the oil pan off before I sent it over and I checked it out. And I thought, I didn't say nothing, but I just thought to myself, yeah, right. You remember how I told you that that oil pan was on there, and I swear to God it was JB Weld. If you had it off, how come I broke 2 bolts trying to get them out, and I had to heat everyone up to get them out. And that was the end of that. I never got my money back for the transmission. And that day I was checking for the oil pumping out of the cooling lines. It was already getting down to like 6 degrees. And I damn near froze to death the last day there, trying to finish up getting the drive shafts and stuff in and doing the distributor. I had to keep going in the house every 15-20 minutes because the finger I split open with the hydraulic squeeze chute there. I don't even know if you guys heard about that, but I had a guy come here to trim the hooves on my bull because he kept coming up lame. And I led the bull into the squeeze chute up on the platform, and I went to step down off the platform, and with my back the way it is, I started to lose my balance, so I grabbed the open door that closes to lock his neck in. And I grabbed the back of that door and to catch myself. And just as I did that, the operator, the guy that was going to trim the hooves, he pulled the hydraulic lever that makes the door scissor. He was adjusting the door to what he thought the bull's neck would be when he closed it. And it was like a pair of scissors, 2 pieces of square tubing, one fixed welded and one that lever like a pair of scissors. And my finger was right at the hinge, just a couple inches away from where it hinges, to accordion the door. And the pressure basically burst the finger wide open. It took 27 stitches by the time I finally got a ride to emergency. And it was like the next day when my doctor friend drove all the way out here from east of Thunder Bay. I'm west of Thunder Bay. He used to be an ER doctor, and I've known him for years. And I had texted him a picture asking him if you think this needs stitches or going to be done. He said, oh yeah, you definitely need to go in. He said, do you need a ride? And I said, well, I've been trying to get one, but I can't get one. So he said, I'll be there in 45 minutes. So he come and got me, took me into Emerge. I'll post a couple of pictures of that. So anyway, with that finger freezing on me so bad, no use of that finger. And of course, you know that my right hand, I've only got use of my thumb and my first index finger. That's it. The other 3 fingers don't work because I'm waiting on an operation on my elbow. And it got too bloody cold to do anything anymore. And the shop wanted, before I was looking for a transmission, the shop in town wanted $4,000 to rebuild it. Plus the cost of a new torque converter, because I said my torque converter was wallowed out. Well, I didn't have $4,000. So now I've been on the hunt for another transmission, but I haven't been looking hard because there's nothing I can do with it till springtime anyway, because I can't work out in this cold. So that's where that stands. I'm wheelless and broke. Now that's the calf right there that I went to go pick up. That's the calf I went to go pick up right there. So the calf ended up spending the first 3 days in the back of my truck. I put straw in the back for her, and I went out every night and every morning and fed her milk in the back of the truck. So I didn't know how I was going to get her from the back of my truck down to the barn by myself, because she was wiry as hell. She's going to be a breeder. She was wiry as hell, and there was no way I was going to be able, even with a rope halter, there was no way I was going to be able to hang on to her myself. And I kept trying to get help, couldn't get no help. So then, as you know, I don't normally bottle feed a calf. I start feeding because I'm sucking on my finger and inside the pail of milk. So I thought to myself, after I couldn't get help, I said it was starting to get too cold for the calf to be in there. And with the side windows broken out of it and no back door to close on it, it was just getting too cold for her. And I had straw in the barn down there ready for her and everything. And that's the heifer that was born last February 14th, Valentine's Day, back there in the bush. There's Mama cow there. Has she got the baby with her, or is the baby laying down up here someplace? It was out here a little while ago, because Mama's coming up the hill. She went down to get a drink. We'll see the calf there. Hi, Mama. So I thought, how am I going to get this calf down there? So I mixed up a pail of milk, and I poured half of it into a 1 liter bottle, calf milking bottle with a nipple. And I went in the back of the truck and I put the rope halter on her, and I lifted her out of the truck, and right away she dragged me right on my face on the ground before I had a chance to do anything. And I hung on to her, and she's pulling hard as she can backwards, and I'm trying to get up. I'm grabbing onto the bumper, and I try to wrap the rope around the bumper as she was pulling me, and so I wrapped the rope around the bumper, and I got up. Well, there's the calf. She's laying down right there, right in between there. Shania's head right for you. You can see that brown spot laying there. She's lifting her head up. So I got to my feet, and the milk pail and the bottle was right there. So right away I tried to get her to nurse off the bottle, but she wasn't used to the bottle, so I've been feeding her by milk. Finally, I made the hole bigger in the nipple so that it would drip, and I kept wiping it on her lips, and she kept headbutting me, and finally she got the idea to suck on it. So I let her sit there and suck on it until she drank half of what I put in the bottle. And then I started to walk this way with her, carrying the pail of milk in one hand and the bottle in the same hand, and she followed me all the way down here. And she got halfway down there, and she decided she was gonna get all antsy-brancy-pantsy, and she friggin' pulled me on my face again down there. And then I was trying to get up, and lucky she wasn't pulling anymore. She stopped and just looked at me, and she came for the bottle again. So I got up on my feet as I'm giving her the bottle, which is very hard for me to get up once I'm down on the ground. I struggled to get back to my feet. And then she sucked on the bottle all the way into the barn. And then I fed her the rest of her milk. And she was locked in the barn until December 28th, when that calf was born. The one over there. And I put a board across the doorway just below my shoulder height, so none of the cows could go in the barn, but this calf could go in there, and the newborn calf can go in there. And yesterday, when it was 20 below out, I came out here after feeding, and there was no sign of this one or the newborn calf up here anywhere. So I tied Shania up because she'll follow me down there and she'll go in the barn and scare them. I figured maybe she's gone in the barn because Mom's been trying to get her into the barn down there because the calf has followed Mom down to the water tank down there, and I've seen Mom trying to push her in the doorway there. But she wouldn't go. The calf would just keep coming back out. I thought maybe the calf has gone in there. So I walked down there after I tied Shania up, and I just walked and I just peeked around the corner into the door. And sure enough, both of these were laying down side by side under the heat lamp, sleeping. And I thought, okay, great. It's going in there when it's cold. Because every night when I come out here at midnight, when it's been milder at night, you know, anything around 4 degrees, 8 degrees, it's laying here at night in the dark, and Mom has covered it up with hay by the hay feeder. So yeah, that's another thing. See, the electric wire's not working. My other electric fence unit, it crapped out in the springtime, the one I paid close to over $400 for. And I went and bought a Chaplin, M460. And that one cost me $287. And it worked fine all summer. And about 2 months ago, the cows were getting out, the pigs were getting out of their pen. And right now I got them locked in the old chicken pen down there because I can't keep them in. They just walk right through the wire like it wasn't there. I tested the fence and it was lighting up one red light on the tester. So I thought, oh, maybe it's shorting. And this is before we got snow. And I walked the whole fence line of this winter feeding corral here because I can't go far from here. They can just go down to that corner and down to that corner. I walked the whole line, nothing shorting anywhere. So I came back here and I took the wires off the fencer and I put the fence tester right across the 2 terminals. And still only 1 red light out of 4 red lights. I called the manufacturer and they said, well, we can't help you unless it's not working at all. So I took it back to the feed store where I bought it, hoping they would just exchange it for me because I just bought it back in May. And they tested it and they said, well, it's working, you know, we can't replace it. So right now I got no fencer to keep them in. That's why this big wire is across here, because that one cow right there that's playing with the calf heifer right here, with the number 35 tag on her ear, you can see it popping up there. She just runs right through the fence like it's not even there. Nobody else will challenge the electric wire except for her. The rest of them stay away from her, but she just walks right through it. And then they would all end up down there and I'd have hay all over the place. Because you know what it's like when you get a whole bunch of cows on your hay stockpile and they rip the netting off. You got hay everywhere, and it wasn't too bad because they just picked on like two bales, and then a couple of bales they ate a little bit in the center of the bale on the end. But still, I had hay all over the ground down there. So when my nephew came to take me to get firewood, I had to get him all the time come and get me to go get firewood. He helped me put up that wire across there, and that's been keeping her in. She hasn't crossed, she hasn't run out. So, being with no truck, I'm not able to go get hay, so I'm paying a guy $260 to go to the farmer, which is only less than 8 kilometers from here, because it's before the farm where I got the calf from, and load up with 11 bales and bring it here. He's charged me $265 a load. And when he comes here, he just pulls up the hill right here, undoes the straps, and they just roll right off the trailer and roll down there. The trailer's empty in 40 seconds. That's $265 just to deliver it to me here. And so the pigs aren't in here because they just run right through the wire. The fence is on there right now. I got the fencer back here. It's on there, but it's only giving one red light on the fence checker when it used to give 4. And it's a 3.6 joule electric fencer. And that thing used to kick my ass. And my other one that went on me in the springtime, it did the exact same thing. That thing there, you know, a piece of brush would touch on the wire, it would burn it right off. Grass would touch it, it would burn it right off. And I had that one for 17 years. And it was a staker ×3. And I see them for sale on Amazon.ca. They're $400. So as soon as I get $400, I'm going to order that one, but money is basically non-existent. And yeah, no vehicle. So that's the story ending on my truck. Apologize, guys, that I didn't do a follow-up video on that, but ever since that day, my brain's been broken, and more and more broken every day. So anyway, I'm going to leave you at that. If you have any other questions, just ask them in the comments or email me, and I'll do another video. And if any of you can afford to use any of the links below in the description, it would be greatly appreciated. As right now, a bag of feed is $637 a ton, up from $278 a ton before COVID. Yeah. And then my boar died on me this fall. I don't know what happened to him. I've never had an adult die on me other than old age, and he was just young. He was just just over a year old, year and 4 months old. And he was in the shed there, and he was still alive, but he wouldn't get up or nothing, and it was too late to give him any medications for anything because I knew he was pretty much done for. I don't know what happened to him. I had just dewormed him about 3 months prior. So it wasn't worms. I just don't know what happened to him. So now I got to find a boar before March in order to breed my sows. Don't know how I'm going to do that, but anyway, if any of you can help at all, use any of the links below, as I'm still giving meat to families in need. Christmas time I gave away hams to a number of people, and quite a bit of beef and pork, and I've been selling what I can just to buy feed. So anyway, appreciate you guys and asking about the truck. I totally forgot that I didn't even do a follow-up video on it. And like I said, I've been discouraged because I've been at this, I think, for 7 years. And the subscriptions the subscribers count is very low. And I've only got like 407 hours of watch time, so I don't even qualify for any ad revenue off of YouTube. So I've been very discouraged, and it's hard to record a video with just a phone. I like to have a camera. I've been trying to save money to buy one, that DJI sports cam, since I hear so many people have so much problems with those what do you call them, the Hero 10s and stuff like that, and whatever they are. Can't think, for some reason I'm drawing a blank here. And the batteries don't last in the cold weather, and they lose footage and all kinds of things. So, and I've read good reviews on that DJI sports cam, but that's around $500 too. Same price as the GoPros. That's what I'm talking about. The same price as the GoPros. And people on YouTube have been using them, been raving about them. That's what I've been saving up to buy. I got all kinds of camera tripods because I used to do photography as a part-time hobby. I used to do weddings and kids photographs and aerial photography, but that was all back in the day when it was my Hasselblad 4x5 camera, $5,000 camera, and 35mm cameras, film cameras. And I've got a digital camera, but it takes really bad video. The video is very grainy, and it's supposed to be 1080p, but the video is very poor. It's a Fuji camera, and I tried it a couple of times, and even with a good quality card, times 10 card in there, it's grainy, and I just don't like it. Okay, that's it, guys, girls. Take care.